See, so we're good. We're on. How's it going,
What's
man?
going on?
Not much. I appreciate you doing this.
It's the Ex Drummers podcast.
hmm I know. Yeah. Well,
What do you got in
not
the cup
exact,
there?
not
What do you got in the cup?
exactly X yet, but I mean,
Yeah.
temporarily X drummer for me for now. What were you asking me?
I said, what do you got in the cup there?
Just water.
No, I
Mm.
got I got the old Starbucks
Yeah, I just some water, and I got my handy dandy lemon seltzer that I always
with
have
vodka
handy.
in it.
No, no, not at all.
Hey, it makes for a good podcast. Just
Yeah,
saying.
well, one of these days, maybe, one of these
Yeah.
days I'll I mean, it's getting liquored up is something I never do. So maybe the next time I do it, it'll be in front of the camera.
I think my former band. I was actually listening to your podcast that you did a few weeks ago with Fran Strawn. He's talking about how
Mhm.
you guys are not really doing the whole drinking thing anymore, and I dare say I've got enough of that in the band days as well. I mean,
Yeah.
there's such a the tolerance and the amount of alcohol consumption for guys in heavy metal bands and stuff is quite high, and I think I had my share of it. I mean, I'm one of those guys like, if you have a long day or you're out on vacation or just kicking it on a weekend, I'll have a glass of wine out on the back deck or the back porch or something.
Mhm.
But that's about it. I don't think I need to prove how much I can drink anymore. I'm more of a
Yeah.
health nut, more
Yeah.
try to be as healthy as I possibly can kind of thing. So
Yeah. I mean, drinking was never a big thing for me anyway. I went through a period, like when I was a late teenager where before I was even legally able to drink, I went through a period where I was really into, going out and partying and, drinking a lot and having fun and all that. And I just got to where I just got tired of it. Actually, I just kind of outgrew it. I used to tell people by the time I was old enough to drink, I was already tired of drinking, um,
yeah.
yeah, and I was never that. I mean, I wasn't one of those people that just like I know people that they just
Yeah.
pound alcohol, and I could never take it. I mean, I've certainly had a few times in my life where I certainly drank too much, but it was just never my thing. I was never
I don't
really.
think I've ever seen you drunk. I mean, I think when we were in Europe, or I was out with you guys in Fozzie in Europe that one time. I think I saw you drink a beer or two the entire
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, it's never been my thing really. I mean, I've been drunk before and I've gotten, really sloppy before, but very few times and very few people have memories of that uh, for me. So, and any drugs really, weed, LSD. I mean, I've never done LSD. I've only experimented with weed twice and um
How do you
neither.
experiment? Either you do it or you don't. So you're just like, let's see what this compartment. I mean,
Well,
how do you,
it's
I
exactly
hear
what it
people
was.
say that I'm experimenting with drugs. I said, no, you're not. You're taking them or you're not.
Well, I just mean I
You
was
consumed.
I was experimenting, like trying it to see how it would make me feel.
Mm.
Like I wasn't doing it like knowing that it was gonna, make me messed up or make me feel good. I was like, all right, let me try this. And both times it was not a very positive experience for me. So it's just never been a part of my
I
makeup.
never, I never was either. Now the drinking thing, yeah, I kind of got a little carried away with that, and I consider myself extremely fortunate and lucky that
Mhm.
I never had a DUI. I never
Mhm.
got in like a bad car wreck.
Right.
I never did anything really bad
Mm.
except for one time, and that was in LA when I was out going to music college. And I guess we could talk about that in a minute if you want to. But I circumvented a lot of minefields that a lot of people did not circumvent very
Mhm.
well because of alcohol or because of
Mhm.
drugs. I was never a drug guy. I accidentally was forced to take ecstasy.
Uh-oh. Did I lose you? You there? Uh-oh. You froze up. I don't know what's going on. Are you there?
Yeah, I see you.
Okay. Did
I
I
see
freeze
you.
up on you? Did I freeze up on you at all? Because you just froze up on me like completely.
No, I mean you didn't freeze up. It just the video went out and the little spirally thing was going on.
Okay. All right.
But you're back now.
Okay. All right. So you were talking about were you talking about being out in LA and having one time where you did something you
Well,
shouldn't have or
yeah.
what?
So when I went out to LA, I went out there. I was real young. I sort of, truth be known, I had 3 classes left in high
Mhm.
school, and I got accepted into this music college called the Musicians Institute of Technology. People from
Right.
all over the world came to this place, and I was just so excited about just the opportunity to go across the country. This is when Motley Crue were big, and Kiss, and Warrant, and Guns N' Roses. So that's where they lived. And I was like,
Mhm.
man, I got to go out there where those guys are, because if I could
Right.
be in without, I'm gonna be hanging out with Axl Rose, man. It was going to be great. And then I got accepted to this music school called Musicians Institute of Technology, and I had, school started at a certain time, and it just so happens that I had to do some things with I had a sales job here, and I started saving up a bunch of money, and I had a choice of either going to summer school and completing the last 3 classes that I had to have in order to graduate for high school, or
Mhm.
I could go ahead and go to LA.
Mhm.
Guess what I chose?
Yeah.
I decided to go to LA.
Right.
And then at the time I was 18, I was playing in a bar band. So I was in high school playing in bars on weekends with guys much, much older than I were. And so that was a good experience for me as far as playing shows and playing in
Mhm.
front of people as opposed to my basement. And so for around here and for my age, I was really good. And so I think I'm going to go out to LA, and I'm going to go into this music college, and I'm going to come out of there the best drummer in the world,
Mhm.
until you see some of the best drummers in the world, and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't think I can be the best drummer in the world, because those guys are doing stuff I didn't even think you could do on
Yeah.
drums.
Yeah.
One of the guys is a guy his son, or of his son. Most people will know of his son more so than him, and
Mhm.
that's a guy named Joe Porcaro. His
Mhm.
son, Jeff Porcaro, played in a band called Toto,
Right.
and arguably one of the most iconic beats in a rock song that there
Mhm.
is for Rosanna. And I was in Joe's class, and now Joe's like this little, or he was this little short, Jewish New York guy with a
Mhm.
receding hairline, little glasses on the end of his nose, looks like a little professor. And
Mhm.
he comes into class. I was like, "Where's the teacher at?" And he goes, "That's the guy." I was like, "That guy is
Him,
going to teach me how to play rock drums?" I was like, "Stop it,
he
stop it."
doesn't even have long hair.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, man, this guy is like waddling in here like Mr. Magoo. And I'm like, what's
Mhm.
this guy going to do? And he's explaining to us this. He taught me my contemporary. I was in his contemporary drumming class, which is like,
Mhm.
big band. It's kind of a mix between rock and big band shuffle, all that kind of stuff. And so um he was trying to explain something to us, and we're following along in this chart book, because
Mhm.
I could read music, and so he was explaining to us how to play these certain patterns, and he's verbally trying to explain it to us, because I'll just show you. Hang on, follow along while I play this. And he counts it off, and I mean, I was like, damn. I said, oh my God. I said, Papa is slaying dragons. Man, and from that point on, I realized, man, anybody that's in that school, I never took them for granted by the way that they looked or by the
Of
way they
course.
appeared to be.
Right.
These guys were serious, serious, serious musicians. And
Mhm.
it was very humbling, but it was kind of a sock in the gut, because I'm
Mhm.
like, man, I don't think I could ever get that good. And I did get better
Yeah.
until I went to this guy's class. They had these things called rock performance, where they had like this little concert hall in the school, held about 300 people maybe, and all the students and people, they would come give this rock performance, which means
Mhm.
you could partner up with other people in the school and put a little band together, put a song together, and then
Mhm,
show up and then perform it in front of the school, and you get class credit for that. So a
mhm,
lot of people would do that. I say, that's kind of more my style. So I was going through there one day, and I really like funk. I
mhm,
was never a jazz guy. I was never a big band guy or a Latin guy. That stuff's really difficult. I
mhm,
wanted to have fun when I played. I wasn't like a cerebral drummer.
mhm.
It was more feeling. And this Japanese guy, I'll never forget this guy ever. His name was Taka Numazawa. He had long hair, but he
Mhm,
had glasses, and he's real skinny. And I remember there's this big drum kit, 3 toms up front, double bass, and that was just that was one we all played when we would perform. And he was doing the same thing. He's trying to read this chart, and he's in his Japanese broken English. He's like, okay, you follow the bar and a 4 bar, and you carry over into the other day. I just show you. Hang on. And dude, this guy was like the funk Tommy Lee. I mean, his hand was coming back here,
mhm.
wham, bow, bow. And it was, I looked around, everybody was just doing, they made the who farted face, everybody going, and I was just like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. I mean,
Right.
this guy was beating the brakes off the drums, and it was in
Mhm.
pocket that they were moving and everything. And I'm just like, hell yes, that I can do. Now, that's the first thing I've seen in here that I can do. I'm going to hit it really hard. I'm going to make everybody do this. And I got it. And so that was a humbling and a very motivational experience that I had out in
How long
California.
how long did you end up out there?
The school is only a year,
Mhm,
and I think the story that you had alluded to earlier
mhm,
was the bad thing involving alcohol that happened while I was out there. And this is not a new thing. I actually talked about it on our podcast. But I was very young,
mhm,
and I was supposed to go out there for a year.
mhm,
I was 18, and
mhm,
my girlfriend was 16.
mhm,
Her mother, we were dating here at the time. Her mother knew I was going out there. Her
mhm.
mother let her go with me. And when she told me that, I was like, she's not gonna let you go. I said, no, no mother's gonna let you do that. And I
Right.
called her mom. He goes, she's gonna go anyway. I was like, and now,
Right.
yeah, and now I'm a jerk if I don't let her go, right?
Right, yeah.
But I was going out there to become a rock star. I didn't want
Yeah.
to take my girlfriend with me.
You don't wanna have you don't wanna have a burden, a ball and chain, holding you down when you're
Yeah,
out going to LA to be a rock star.
that's right. That's right. So it was me and 2 of my friends and her. So we loaded up the U-Haul, made the trip all the way across country.
Mhm,
And the building I lived in was on Sycamore Avenue, right off Hollywood Boulevard. I could see Hollywood Boulevard from my balcony.
mm.
And I think we all know how band guys are, right? So
Yeah.
this building that I lived in was packed full of MI students, all band guys.
Right.
The day we pulled up, now I will say this, my girlfriend, I'm not just saying this because she was my girlfriend, was extremely attractive, like
Mhm,
model, like she was a model. She
mhm.
was extremely attractive. As soon as we get out of the U-Haul, these guys are like hanging out of the windows like vultures, and they see her, and I'm like, I look at them, they look at her. I was like, uh-oh, this is not good. This is not good. There are foxes in the hen house, man. It was not good. So to me, I mean, it was the first time I'd been away from home that far in that kind
Mhm.
of environment. I did go to military school, and this is a completely different environment.
I was gonna say, I mean, that's not really comparable going to military school and going to
Mm-mm.
LA to study to be a drummer.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at
So
all. But we get out there, and so I start drinking a lot, trying to, you want to party and try to be like you live in LA. Everything
mm,
you see, the guys in Warrant, Motley Crue do, and all these Faster Pussycat, all these bands, everything you see them doing, you want to be like that.
right.
And that's kind of how I was. And through a series of unfortunate events, we wound up getting rid of some of our roommates. And then,
Mhm,
uh, yeah. So then at that point, let's just say the wolves got in the hen house. And
mhm.
I didn't take it very well. I was a young, hopeless romantic kind of emotional guy.
How old were you?
And
You
I
just
was
out of high school?
I was 19.
19, just
I
out of high
just
school.
yeah, I just turned 19. And yeah, I did not take it well. So in order to kind of mask some of that hurt and that pain,
Mhm,
I would drink a lot.
Right.
And I mean a lot, like every single day, all day, even before I go to class, you know.
Mhm.
And it got to a point one day where I was just not feeling well. I was not in a good state, and you know, when you drink a lot, you make bad choices, as you
Mhm.
well know. And so,
Oh, yeah.
not saying that you've made those, but I'm just saying,
Well, a
for
few,
me, I
I
had,
mean, luckily I didn't ever, have any, like, life choices that I regretted because of alcohol, but, I mean, like
yeah,
anybody else who's, like, experimented, I, made 1 or 2 choices, but I'm fortunate that I never had anything,
mm,
really
yeah.
bad happen, but anyway, go ahead.
But as I'm one night, I remember uh, she was not living in the apartment at that time. My roommates had all kind of moved out, except I had one roommate that stayed with me.
Mhm.
And I was sitting there one night sulking. I just drink. I've been drinking all day. And I said, you know, if I could just take some pills or something, maybe I'll sleep for a couple days and this will kind of go away. When I wake up, I'll start fresh. That's the mindset of somebody who's been drinking all day.
Mhm.
So I don't think I consciously remember doing this, but apparently I did. But I took a handful of these like super extra strength Tylenols, like 40 or 50 of them, which is not good because it's not like you're taking meth, but they are things that attack your liver.
Well, 40 or
And
50 of any kind of pill is not good.
yeah, yeah, you take some B12, man, you probably
Yeah, I mean,
explode.
exactly, yeah.
And so anyway, when that happened, I just kind of passed out in the bathroom, and my roommate came home and found me and kind of helped me in the bed. And for some reason, I don't know, I sat up in the bed and I said, I got to go find her. And I
Mhm.
started walking down the hallway because I knew she was down in a hallway in another room on the same floor as our apartment with these guys doing Lord knows what.
Right.
But I had to go down there. And so I go down there and I open up the door and I just walk in and I see her. And as soon as I see her, I just go, "Ooh," boom, and I just collapse. And they go, the guys are like, ha ha, Scott, yeah, very funny. Get out, get out. I can hear them.
Yeah.
I just can't move and I can't speak.
Oh, wow.
So they come over and they're kind of moving me. Get up, dude. Let's go. And I was like, I couldn't move. And so the guy's like, opens up my eye and I can see him, but there again, nothing's really working. And
Mhm.
they're like, guys, I don't think he's kidding. And oh yeah, he is. And so they come over and a few more guys come over and look and they're like, we need to call the ambulance. Next thing
Mhm.
I know, the fire trucks, the ambulance, the cops, everybody's comes rushing into this room and they tell everybody, get out, get out, get out. And they start checking me out and they're like, we got to get this guy to the hospital like immediately.
Mhm.
So they put me on the board and strap me down and they carry me out. You know, there's a whole crowd of people out on the
Right.
sidewalk.
Right.
And they put me in the ambulance and they carry me to Cedar Sinai Medical Center. Now, this is a Saturday night at Cedar Sinai Medical Center in Hollywood, California. Just take a stab at what's going on in
Mhm.
Cedar Sinai Medical Center at midnight on a Saturday night. It
Yeah,
is an insane asylum.
I can imagine.
It is there aren't even words for it. And there again, I can kind of tell what's going on. I'm just not my senses and my movement. I don't know what was going on, but
Mhm.
so finally they give me some shots, put some heart monitors on me. Next thing you know, it's the next day and I wake up. Nobody's in there. Uh, Doctor comes in. I got all this stuff hooked up to me, and they go, Mr. Sellers, doctor's going to be in to see you in just a minute. I said, okay, cool.
Mhm.
And I'm more embarrassed than anything at this point. But then the
Mhm.
doctor comes in, but it's not a medical doctor, it's a psychiatrist.
Hmm.
And they said, Mr. Sellers, I'm just trying to find out why you tried to kill yourself. I said, excuse me? He goes, why you tried to kill yourself? I said,
What gives
I
you
ain't
that
trying.
idea?
Yeah, I was like, what gives you that idea? He goes, well, look at where you are. I said, do you realize that we took some stuff out of your stomach that if it had been allowed to stay in there, if your friends hadn't have called us another 45 minutes or so to an hour, you would have been dead. You would have not woken up and you'd be downstairs instead of here.
Wow.
And dude, that you talking about sobering somebody up,
Yeah, that's some
that
wake-up call.
it is because immediately I thought of my mom
Mhm.
and I thought of my family and my grandparents, the shame that I would have brought upon them
Mhm.
by me passing away. in that place doing carrying on like that,
Mhm.
that just it was a moment of weakness and stupidity and
Mm.
selfishness. And I'm not going to say that I've never really gotten drunk before since then, because I have, but I never ever ever get near that point,
Right.
because
Right.
that scared the bejesus out of me, man. And I'm like, that was that close to being all the stuff that I have in my life now, all the people that are in my life, all the experiences, the tours, the recording, the traveling, the businesses, the relationships. None of that would have ever happened had I not had somebody come pick me up off the floor, and for some reason I go walking down the hall. So
Mm.
it's very sort of ashamed in one sense to sort of tell that story, but at the same time, um, you know, there's a lot of people who may or may not be going through something like that, and they turn to things like drugs or
Mm.
alcohol. And I'm just, to me personally, it does nothing but exacerbate it and make it worse. It
Yeah.
makes it worse. Oh, I just need something to take the edge off. No, you're making it worse. Well,
Yeah.
I need something to calm my nerve. No, you're making it worse. I need something
Right.
so I don't feel so bad. You're making it worse.
You're
There are other
self-medicating.
ways. Yeah, there are other ways to fix it. But
Right.
yeah, that was one of the that is one of the reasons why today I just don't carry on and drink like that anymore. I don't want to risk losing what I've had and what I've built.
Yeah.
And you know, let's face it, we're getting older too. So the more you drink, you look older, and I can't have
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that.
I had an interesting conversation with somebody recently, um, where uh, I was working in a restaurant for a little while, not terribly long ago, and there was this girl who worked there who was like 18 or 19, and she and I were talking, and so I don't know how the subject came up. I mean, but we had it was a restaurant, so we had a bunch of like draft beers or whatever, and
Yeah,
somebody was talking about like the new beer that we had gotten in or what have you. And the girl who was, she was really kind of sweet and innocent. She was like, I've never had a beer, and the guy who I was talking to was like, you've never had a beer? Well, and
save
yeah.
yourself, honey. Don't drink it.
Well, I remember saying, keep it that way. Like if you've never had a beer, you've never had any alcohol, just, and you're okay with that. And she was like, I don't really care. She was like, I've never had a beer, but I don't really care if I ever have one or not. And I was like, keep it that way. Good.
Yeah, that's good
And,
advice.
and the guy who we were talking to was like, come on, man, there's nothing wrong with having a beer. And, and I was like, "No, there's a lot wrong with it," it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not, like, advocating that like, I'm not advocating a new prohibition or anything, and I've certainly, uh, you know,
Yeah.
I've certainly had alcohol myself, but, I mean, alcohol is a serious, serious thing. People don't realize, just how many lives alcohol destroys all the time,
More
and
than COVID.
yeah, well, yeah, yeah, and I asked
Everybody's
the
freaking
guy.
out about that.
Because like I've heard a statistic that like of all the murders committed in the United States, half of them, like 50%, either the perpetrator or the victim is either drunk or has like alcohol in their system.
Yeah.
You know, like the amount of murders in the United States where neither either the perpetrator or the victim or whatever, where there was no alcohol involved, is like 50 cent, like half of the murders, if it weren't for alcohol, would probably be gone, and I remember asking the guy, I said, how many people do you think, if you could survey everybody and say, you know like, do you drink alcohol? Yes. How many people, what percentage of people who have ever tried alcohol would probably say, I wish I'd never had my first drink? I wish I had never tried. I wish I'd never tried my first beer. I wish I'd never tried whatever. Like what percentage of people, you know, whether they have an alcohol problem or not, like me, I don't have an alcohol problem. I rarely ever drink. And I probably wouldn't say, well, I wish I'd never had my first beer because it's not an issue for me. But
Yeah.
there are a great many people for whom it is a big issue. They're like, it's it's like a major part of my life that I wish wasn't there. I mean, think about how many people probably say, "I wish I'd never had my first drink." 30%, maybe 35 or 40 maybe, of
Maybe
people who've ever tried alcohol who say, "I wish I'd never had my first drink." I remember when I was a lot younger and,
cigarettes too.
yes, I mean, yeah, but I mean, alcohol is like, alcohol is way worse than cigarettes because like, people don't like
Yeah, you
people like
can't you can't smoke a pack of cigarettes and run off the road and
yeah,
and
it's like
hit somebody head on. Yeah,
as much as I don't like cigarettes and as much as they're, something that I think, I mean, I've always there's an old saying, a cigarette is a fire at one end and a fool at the other. Yeah.
that's
And
very good.
yeah,
That's very
and
good.
I totally believe that. A cigarette's a fire at one end and a fool at the other.
Yeah,
But, like, smoking a cigarette doesn't, like, change your personality, and it doesn't impair your judgment. And alcohol, like, is the only drug, from everything I understand, alcohol is the only drug that actually increases aggression in people. Like, alcohol makes you aggressive, and
yeah,
it makes you like it doesn't make you not realize what you've done. You know what you've done, you just don't care. Like, under the influence of alcohol will make you do things that you normally wouldn't do, but you don't go like, oh my god, what have I done? No, it's like, you know what you've done, you just don't care. And that's like, so I mean, it's probably the most alcohol is probably the most dangerous drug there is, more than anything else. But we
I
learned
agree.
our we learned our lesson with trying prohibition. So anyway, yeah, I just remember saying to that girl, just, if you've never tried it and you're not inclined to, just do yourself a favor and just stay away. You don't need it, you know.
So here's what I tell people in my company too. I say every day when you get up, you have a choice as far as what you're going to do and how you're going to go about conducting your day, whether it be
Mm,
work, whether it be your physical routine, whether it be time at home with your wife and kids or whatever. And if you have a goal, you know every single thing that you do throughout the day and night, it's either getting you closer to that goal
mhm.
or you're going
Further away.
backwards. So my question is, if you have any goal in life whatsoever, and this is coming from somebody who drinks occasionally,
Mhm.
does that get you closer to your goal or does
No.
it get you farther away from it? And I dare say, I don't think anybody can make, if your goal is to get in a car and go out and swerve all over the place and hit somebody, that's probably alcohol will get you closer to your goal.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
if your goal if your goal is to be healthy, to live a good long life, barring any other circumstances, and to be a genuinely um, decent person when you're out in public and not risk getting arrested, not risking messing up your car, not risking hurting someone else, then by not drinking, does that get you closer to your goal? If the answer is yes, then don't do it. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to ask yourself, is what I'm doing good for me or is it bad for me? Same thing with cigarettes. I dare say, same thing with food. Food, I think, kills more people than cigarettes do. I think.
Mm.
I mean, America has an you may have noticed because you've been over to Europe. America has an obesity problem,
Yeah, that's for
and
sure.
it goes back to what you had said before. It's not that the people don't know better, because you know that if you
Mhm.
go to McDonald's and get the chicken nuggets and the fries and a big 95-ounce Coke and a quarter pounder with cheese and this, that, and the other, you know it's not good for you,
Right.
but you eat it anyway. You know why? Either because you're lazy or you don't care. I hate to say it. Americans generally are lazy and they don't care. That's
Mm.
why we have an obesity problem. That's why we have alcoholics. That's why heart disease and cigarettes and all that kind of stuff kill the majority of Americans, is because so many people consume it. What
Mhm.
good does a cigarette do you? Don't worry, I'll wait.
No, I mean, no, you're not gonna you don't have
What are
to
the
you don't have
what are
to
the
make
health
this
benefits?
argument with me.
Yeah, I mean, there are no health benefits. And my mom still smokes. Tomorrow's Mother's Day, and I got to go up to my mom's house, and she's probably going to have to smoke a cigarette. I'm just like,
Mm,
it just drives me insane. And I'm not saying I'm a temple of health, I'm not, but I do know that I have certain goals in my life, and I
mhm,
do know that I have to eat a certain way in order to get to those goals. And I have to refrain and abstain from certain things to get to those goals because I care. I
Mhm.
care about how I look. I care about how I feel. I
Mhm.
care about being able to perform at any kind of athletic event that I go to. You know,
Yeah.
I care that I get up in the morning I've got energy. I care about that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah.
curtail my activities, you know, um so that I can perform good and I can feel good and I can
What
look good.
What do you think made you so goal oriented? Because you weren't always, apparently, right?
No, no. I I will say though, man, I had a very good upbringing. My parents were very good to me. My grandparents were kind of like my second parents. They were
Mhm.
great role models. They were great examples. You know, just a real quick thing. So my grandfather grew up in 1920,
Mhm.
a dirt floor in Alabama. He picked cotton and raised chickens. Very, very, very poor. Went off to World War II, fought in World War II, came back, met my grandmother, had two daughters, one my mom, the other one my aunt, and then they had us grandkids. And my grandfather started working at this place called the Columbus Waterworks. It's the water
Mhm.
treatment plant, huge place down in Columbus, and it controls all the water that moves through that city.
Mhm.
He started there basically in an entry level job right after the war, like 1946 or 47, I want to say, and retired there 46 years later as the chief executive officer and president of the Columbus Waterworks. So he ran the gamut. So he was one of my first mentors, one of my first heroes.
Mhm.
And you know, so being around people like that, they raised my parents. And so my mom and dad got married very young. They had me very young. My mom was 19. And
Mhm.
she her and my dad worked a lot to try to provide for us. My parents, my grandparents were not like, well, you can just live here. We'll take care of you. Well, no,
Mhm.
there was none of that. Uh-uh. You're old enough to have sex. You're old enough to have a kid. You're old enough to get married. Your
Mhm.
ass is going to get out and you're going to live it. You're going to live or die on your own. Now, we love you
Mhm.
and we'll be here for you, but you're on your own. And
Right.
they made them get out and figure it out, and they did.
Mhm.
And my dad at one point had three jobs, and you know, my mom would work, and so they worked very, very hard. You know, they were low middle class, but they worked very, very, very hard.
Mhm.
And so those lessons were instilled in them. I will tell you that one of the, I think, as far back as I can remember, I think the one thing, I was never really competitive up until about, I'd say, the time I was 12 years old.
Mhm.
A lot happened when I was 12 years old. So I lived in a little town called Fairhope, Alabama. The guys I used to run with, they used to ride bikes, you know, like BMX bikes. That was the cool thing. You know, you had the Skyway mags, you know, and the
Mhm.
PK Ripper bikes and all that stuff. And I got into bike racing. I wasn't very good, but I did want this really, really badass bike. I went up to the bike shop. That's where everybody hung out, and I I picked out every single piece of this bike that I wanted. This is not like, you know, back then you could get a bike with a gas tank, a Huffy with a gas tank on it at Kmart for like
Mhm.
25 bucks or 30 bucks. This bike that I put together was $500, which is like buying a Ferrari for me today. It
Mhm.
was a lot of money. And my dad at that point had a really good job selling computers. This is when computers first came out. They were
Mhm.
the size of an entire room. There was
Right.
no really PCs at home. These were systems that ran companies, and he
Mhm.
would sell those and he made really good money back then. This is 1982,
Mhm.
and so I wanted that bike, and I knew my parents could buy it for me. I knew they could. I mean, there's no question about it. They could buy it tomorrow, but they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. I was like, and I was so mad with them. And I mean, it just because it's something I felt it in my soul that I wanted this bike, you know. And so they called me into the dining room one night and says, "You really want that bike?" I said, "Yes, yes." I thought they were going to give it to me.
Mhm.
Wrong. They said, "We're not going to give it to you, but for every dollar you go out and figure out a way to earn, I'm
Mhm.
12. You
Right.
figure out you can earn it, we will match it. So for every dollar that you earn, we'll match it." I said, "You got a deal." That
Yeah.
night, I got a Sharpie. I'm making flyers, grass cutting, washing cars,
Give
raking
me money.
leaves, all that stuff. Yeah. And I went around the neighborhood and I would put it in people's mailboxes. And then after I did that, then I went around again. I would knock on doors. It was like a door to door salesman. And I had my pitch down. I came up with what I was going to say. And I'd had set rates that I would charge for these tasks.
Mhm.
And long story short, in 2 weeks, I had half of the money. And my mom and dad were like, damn, okay, here's
Right.
the rest of it. Go order your bike. And I ordered it. But back then, there was no Amazon, right? So I ordered this bike from California and they put all the pieces together and ship it to the bike shop, my home
Mhm.
shop there. And I remember this, man, like it was yesterday. I was outside playing with my buddies, and I come inside, and my mom's smiling. She goes, "Bike shop called. Your bike's here." I was like, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!" I said, "Okay, just go up there and get it, man." I was running, man, and I ran probably 2 miles to this bike shop, and they had it up on the stand, and they were putting it together, and it was like this aura, this light was like, oh, it was. I was like, oh my god, it was,
Mhm.
and the satisfaction that I got from knowing that I went out and earned this, man, that did it for me, man.
Mm.
That feeling, knowing that I did it,
Yeah.
I figured it out, I
Yeah.
worked, and I did. Nobody gave it to me. I earned it,
Mm.
man. When I rode that bike, man, I was like, yeah, man. I was riding down and I just could not wait for my first and my friends to see it. Like, dude, look at that bike! Oh my god! I was just like, yeah, that's right, that's right. It's kind of like this is sort of the equivalent, like if you're really broke and you live in the hood,
Mhm.
and then you go make it, and then you drive back to the hood in your Rolls Royce, and
Mhm.
everybody comes out, dude, look at that Rolls Royce. That's kind of what I felt like that day. I had my
Yeah.
Rolls Royce bike, and it was amazing. So that work ethic definitely
Mhm.
came from my grandparents and my mother.
Yeah.
The
But
bike racing,
it
the
wasn't a
bike race.
it wasn't
What's
a
that?
linear progression for you though, because you did go through some hard times, like as early in your adulthood. I remember you telling me, the whole like digging in the digging in your car's ashtray, coin tray to be able to eat at
uh,
Taco Bell. And I have somebody I won't mention who, knew you about 30 years ago, who kind of dubbed you the least likely to succeed. And so I'm just
I
wondering,
wouldn't.
like, what, like, how did it go from, you being this industrious kid, who had learned these lessons of self-reliance and everything early, where did that kind of like the dip in that progression happen and how?
I think it's a lot like farming, right?
Mhm.
Farmers, when they go out and they cultivate their fields, it looks like a big pile of dirt. Doesn't look like
Mhm.
much. You just drive by, you don't pay it any kind of attention whatsoever. But
Mhm.
he's out there and he's planting seeds. And to me, there are moments, there are events, good and bad, and there are
Mhm.
people that come into your life and that plant these little seeds,
Mhm.
and they don't sprout right up. You gotta mind them a little bit. It needs a little bit of rain, a little bit of fertilizer. In my case, I had a lot of fertilizer,
Mhm.
the bad kind, and then you need some sunshine, and but most of all, you need some time.
Yeah.
And I can look back at some specific people and some specific things in my life that planted these seeds,
Mhm.
and as it went on, um they just started these things started to sprout up, man, and you become this different person.
Mm.
um
Would you say that you kind of had to rediscover, something like that was already there about yourself? Because it sounds like you were,
I
an
do.
industrious
I
kid
did.
who
I
grew up and had like the right lessons, but kind of got off track early in your life because you wanted to be a rock star. And I mean, would you say that's accurate or?
Yeah, because that's what I wanted to do. I mean, ever since my story's probably a lot like yours. I mean, ever since I was 5 years old, I got my first drum when I was 5. I broke it that night, so I was like, yeah, get some of that.
Well,
Next.
it
No.
was 10 years old. It was 10 years old for me. So you got a head
Yeah.
start on me.
But I was a big Elvis fan, huge Kiss fan, and I
Mhm.
actually saw Elvis when I was 5 years old. It was his
Wow.
last tour, right like a year or two before he died. Um, but that had an impact on me, man. I always wanted to be a performer. You know, I was always wanting to make jokes. I wanted to make people rock. I always wanted to make
Right.
people smile or laugh or get a reaction out of people. I was always
Mhm.
like that. And so for music, man, when I got started playing drums, it was just I just always felt in my heart and my soul that's what I was meant to be.
Mm.
I wasn't meant to go to school and be a doctor. I wasn't meant to be an astronaut. You know, I did want to be a fighter pilot. That was pretty cool. But
Right.
all these things, but I loved music. Is great because it's so emotional. It's not just a technical thing; it's an emotional thing. And I was a very emotional kid. I kind of still am, but music always brought these emotions in me, and I wanted to be able to bring that out in other people.
Mhm.
So I had a choice when I went to MI as to whether I could go down the academic route or I can, you know, sort of burn the ships on the shore, as they say, burn all the bridges behind me. And
Mhm.
that's what I'm going to do. There's no plan B. I'm going to make that happen. And so
Mhm.
that's what I did. Everything I did in my life, sacrificed in my life was to go have that one thing. You know, I never really had a really good job, you know, because I didn't want a career. I just wanted a paycheck so I could get some money so I could go back out on the road. You
Right.
know, girlfriends came and went. Um, you know, I didn't really need a house. I didn't need mortgages and bills and stuff because I wanted to be able to pick up and go at any given minute and go. I never wanted to have any excuse as to why I wasn't out pursuing my dream of being a rock star.
Mhm.
And I forsaked a lot of things, man. I passed up a lot of things, but I will say I learned a lot about me along the way, and I learned a lot about what I didn't want to be along the way.
Right.
And I think that when my playing days were over, as far as you know, making it in my own band,
Mhm.
um, I had to sort of, you know the old Robert Johnson story about when he was at the crossroads and the devil shows up and says, "You want to go this way or do you want to go that way?" Well, I kind of picked my road that I wanted to go down, and I wanted to go down this one road, and I traveled down that road for half of my life
Mhm.
until I realized, oh, this is not the road I need to be going down.
Right.
So I had to stop, turn around, go all the way back to the crossroads and say, hey, now I need to go this way.
Mhm.
But everybody I know, their lives are already, 100 miles down that road. And I got to
Right.
hurry up. I've got to
Yeah.
hurry up and catch up to them. And
Right.
that's kind of how I felt, for the last 8 to 10 years or so. Um, but yeah, like now that I'm on this path, there are a lot of it's like when you're young, you think your parents are the dumbest people in the world, but then when you get older and you have kids of your own, you realize everything they were telling you, they were pretty smart and they knew a
Mhm.
whole lot more than what you thought they did.
Mhm.
Now I'm at that place in my life where a lot of these mentors, these teachers, these lessons that I've learned either through music or through just seeing my parents having good examples, having bad examples around me, I've really started to put it all together. And I think probably when I was about 45 is really, I'd say early 40s is when I really started, you know, let's just say investing in myself, in my
Mhm.
education, in my health, in my this and my that, and really paying attention to the people I hang around
Mhm.
and the circles that I ran in, the advice that I took,
Mhm.
my habits. Habits are what make you who you are. You can say, I don't have
Mhm.
bad eating habits. Well, if you're 300 pounds, you have bad eating habits. I'm here. Well, you
Yeah.
don't know what I eat. Yeah, I do. I can tell. And just like if somebody's a marathon runner, I can tell you he probably logs in about 120 miles a week in practicing.
Mhm.
So I started focusing on my habits and what I
Right.
did every day. And there again, you have to ask yourself the question, is it getting you closer to what your goal is, or is it making you regress?
Mhm.
And it all just started kind of coming together for me. I will tell you, I mean, I'm not perfect. I mean, I'm not where I want to be in life, but I've
Mhm.
made a lot of positive changes. And but yeah, I mean, there were times where I had to fish change out of my ashtray to go get something to eat at Taco Bell. I've actually put less than $1 of gas in my car before back in the day. And
Right.
as far as the ashtray thing goes, thank God I wasn't a smoker because all those all that change would have had, I'd have,
You had
gray
ash on
fingers.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My damn dashboard would look like a crematorium.
Now I remember, you and I have known each other for a long time, and you were still pursuing there was a while there where there was an overlap. You were still pursuing music, but you were running a business,
Yeah.
so how did that work exactly? Like, when did you decide that, like, you couldn't do the whole have a job thing, a job that allowed you to go out and on the road and play and be in a band, that you had to be your own boss, that you had to be an entrepreneur? How did that come about?
It was a complete accident. I'd like to say that I had this master plan and I went out, I had this goal in my life to be this big time entrepreneur guy, but I didn't.
Mhm,
The reason why I started all this is because I walked into my office one day. So you are right. I mean, even back for people that know me, know like even back in the Stoneheart days, that's a long
mhm,
time ago. Back when you were with Salem's Ash, Stuck
mhm.
Mojo days. Um,
Mid
I
to late
had
90s.
yeah, right around 1991, something
Oh,
like that.
okay.
Yeah, is kind of when all that stuff got started for me. But
Okay.
I found myself in a band, and we wanted to tour, and so we did. But we weren't touring enough, and we weren't big enough where you could go out and make a living doing it. So when we came home, well, lo and behold, I had to have a job.
Yeah,
And this friend of
like
mine
most
that
musicians.
yeah, like like most people, I always tell people, I said, look, man, a lot of these people you think are rock stars and rich. When I was in Candlelight Red, I remember we were playing the Roxy in LA, sold out show. Lady from Japan gets on the bus. She's interviewing us and she goes, how does
Mhm.
it feel to be rich and famous? I go, I
I'll let
said,
you know.
yeah, I'll let you know. I said, I can tell you kind of what it feels like to be famous, but rich doing this? I said, absolutely not, man.
Yeah, so many
Um,
people don't realize how many guys in bands that they know, hear them on the radio, they go
yeah,
to their concerts, whatever, if not have a job, at least have to have another source of income. They have, like, they're like you, they have a business that they run. I've been on tour buses with bands that like open for us, where other members of those guys have their laptops out doing something during the day,
yeah.
that brings in income. So anyway, go ahead.
No, but that was kind of where I was. When we weren't out on the road, I had to have a job, and so this guy that helped us move our gear and stuff when we were here in town said, my boss will hire you doing construction,
Mhm,
and it doesn't have to be full time. You guys can come in, and whenever you're not out on the road and you want to work here, then you just let him know when you're going to be in town. You can come and work. I said, cool. I don't mind working outside doing construction because it'll keep me in shape, get a little
mhm,
tan. It'll be great.
mhm.
And so he hired us making $6 an hour. And it was, I was killing it, man. So it was a necessity. And so, if you can imagine, if you could look at some sort of side by side levels, right? So
Mhm.
as I got better at my job, the band started becoming more popular, and I got better at my job, more popular, and so as each of those started becoming more successful, there was this sort of protagonist,
Rotation.
antagonist. It was like a tug of war because
Right.
sometimes I had to focus on my job or I'd lose it. I
Mhm.
had to be present and do just enough, which is what most people do in America now. Job, just over broke. They do just enough. They do just enough not to get fired. And that's
Right.
what I was doing. I was a terrible employee. Um, because that was more of a nuisance. It was like a gnat. My
Mhm.
job was like a gnat. Just I was
Yeah.
worried about this rock star thing. Yeah, yeah. Oh, gotta go to work. When I get done, come pick me up and we're gonna go on the road. Okay, cool. And it was awesome for a while, but then it got to a point where those bands were over, and I was off for about a year and a half where I didn't tour, I didn't do anything, and I got up one night and went down to a club called the Ten High here in Atlanta. Met a
Mhm.
gentleman by the name of Jack Andrade, and who was a guitar player for a band called Uncrowned. They just got rid of the drummer. Said, "Do you want to come audition?" I said, "Yes." So 3 days later, I'm in their basement. We're sweating it out. We all looked at it. It was loud, dude. I mean, it was like everybody was turned up. I was hitting as hard as I could. The house was like shaking. I was like, yeah, I want to be in this band. This was awesome. So now I had
Yeah.
this renewed sense of this is definitely what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
And that went, whew. I mean, next thing I know, I'm on a plane going to Mexico playing with Sammy Hagar at his birthday party. I'm like, wow. I
This
was
is
on
like
my couch at
2004. Okay.
2004. Yeah. I said, a few months ago, I was on my couch Now I'm hanging out with Chad Kroger and Kenny Chesney and Sammy Hagar. I'm just like, wow, this is it. This is it. And the Spin Magazine article came out. I was like, this is it. This is it. But I still had to have a job.
Right.
But at that point, by the time I was in Uncrowned, I had moved out of the field into the office. So I was a division manager. So I had to go out to jobs and travel a lot. So I didn't always have to be in the office. And quite frankly, the people I was working for, weren't in the office very often either.
Mhm.
So I was able to kind of spend more band time. I could take off on a Friday if I wanted to and get in my truck and drive down to Biloxi for, 2 or 3 shows in Biloxi and New Orleans over the weekend and come back. We were like weekend warriors. But
Yeah.
then it got to be where we never going to get a record deal unless we were touring,
Yeah.
opening for bands, playing with bands. And that's when it really got hard. And fortunately, but not fortunately, and I'll kind of give you my take on this in a minute, but I came in the office one day and they sat me down and says, look, we really appreciate all your years of hard work, but we're not going to be doing your division anymore. So we're going to let you go. And I got a severance package for you. They paid me for like a month. And
Mm.
I said, all right, cool. They took me to my house that I just bought with my then girlfriend, now wife, and she's at work. And I'm sitting there in the house going, she is going to kick my ass when she gets home. I said, I do not, I didn't have a job when she moved up here. I was a bum. I just got everything going back. And now the band doesn't pay enough for me to pay for this house.
Mhm.
So, man, I was freaking out, man. And
Yeah.
she came home. She freaked out. But we talked about it. And I said, all right, just give me a minute. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do. So, the band was doing pretty good at that time. Like, I mean, we were packing places here in Atlanta, and we had 4 or 5 out of state cities that we would go to. We were filling those places, and I felt like it was only a matter of time before all this was in my rearview mirror, and I could be
Yeah.
Mr. Rockstar guy. And so, needless to say, it got to a place where I had to have a job, and I didn't want to go work for somebody else because they were going to keep an eye on me like a hawk because
Mhm.
I'm the new guy.
Right.
So I'm at a buddy's house one night. We're getting ready to go for drinks, and I look on his coffee table, and there's a book. Now, I was never a reader, dude. Ask anybody who knew me in high school; they probably never saw me with a book in my hand except to pick them up and carry them to the next class. I
Mhm.
was not a reader, and so I saw this book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by a
Mhm.
guy named Robert Kiyosaki,
Yep.
and I opened it up while my buddy's taking a shower, and I'm just like, I read through the first 2 pages, 4 pages, 8 pages. I'm like, I like the way this guy writes because he was not a good student either. So the way he wrote would be a lot like me and you talking.
Mhm.
And it's basically a money book. It's an entrepreneurial book. It's teach you how to be an entrepreneur. It teaches you about money and about business. And I was like, but he was talking in a way that even I could understand. A D and F student, I could understand. And my buddy let me have that book, and I read it cover to cover, I think twice that weekend.
Mhm.
And I was like, I remember like it was yesterday. I sat down with my wife and I go, my girlfriend at the time, I go, I think I'm gonna start my own business. And she goes, what do you know about your own business? I was like, I know a
Nothing.
lot about what I'm doing, but
Yeah.
I'll figure the rest of that stuff out. So
Mhm.
then I went from working for somebody to working for myself, but I didn't have a company. I owned a job, which means if I'm not working, there is no money. So
Mhm.
I had to give it some time. But and then all of a sudden the band thing starts doing. We're starting to get played on some radio stations. We start picking up these shows. We're opening up for bigger bands.
Mhm.
Sammy invites us back down to Mexico again. We're on his TV show a couple times. And I'm like, this is it, man. And so I wanted to just keep just busy enough until the band thing started. So fast forward a few years, I still own a job, but I got a few guys that are helping me.
Mhm.
And even up until the point where, um, uh, the Uncrowned thing was over at that point. We had gotten a record deal, and it wasn't what all it was cracked up to be. And so
Mhm.
we just decided, to hell with it. And then went over to Europe with you guys for a little bit, and then I got a call to join a band called Candlelight Red.
Mhm.
That tour was fun. It was great. But there again, they were kind of on about that close to calling it quits too, and I could kind of sense that. So
Yeah.
after that first tour I did with them, I said, I'm not going to be here anymore. And then I think they wound up breaking up shortly after that. But
Right.
anyway, I started having these opportunities to grow my company,
Mhm.
and it just got to a point where I decided to go all in on that. And when I did, I knew there were a lot of things in my life that had to change. And so when I came home from that last tour, I focused 100% on my business and me getting better. I started reading more. I started figuring out who I can hang out with that's ran other businesses before, connecting with them, asking them questions, learning from them. Anything that I could do for me to get better. I came across the book, Think and Grow Rich, How to
Mhm.
Win Friends and Influence People. So at this point, I started becoming a reader because somebody told me, I'm talking about all these great and wonderful things I want to do in my life. And somebody said, Scott, the only difference between you and that guy that's already got all that stuff is that guy knows a lot of stuff you don't.
I remember when you showed me the list of books that you've read, I was like, because I've always been, I've always been a pretty good reader, but I always read fiction. I've read
Yeah.
some nonfiction, but I mean, I've always,
50
you know,
Shades of Gray.
no. Um, but when you showed me that list of books, of like success books and,
Yeah.
let's say self-actualization books, you
Yeah.
showed me that list. I was like, wow, man, that's impressive because it's a long list and you've read all of those. I mean,
Yeah.
that's impressive. So, so that was, would you say that was kind of the catalyst was the reading? Because that's what I've always heard, when in my own kind of exploration of that, like the self-actualization and the self-help, it's always take time to read, you know, take time out of your day to read something.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest investment you're ever going to make is in yourself.
Hmm.
There's no better way to spend your time or your money than on your self education. There's a
Hmm.
saying that says, a formal education like high school and college will make you a living.
Hmm.
Self education will make you a fortune.
Yeah.
And it's true, man. I mean, I hate to, and it's not fashionable because it requires work, it requires effort, it
Right.
requires your time.
Hmm.
But there's a statistic out there that says, most big time CEOs read about 60 books a year. Now, I
Mhm.
personally do not read 60 books a year. My goal this year, let me look up on my board, is 25 books. I think I did
Mhm.
21 or 22 last year.
Mhm.
But I listen to podcasts, I look at documentaries and things like that. I go to classes, I have an executive coach. So I do a lot of learning aside from books. But as far as books go, yeah, I mean, I try to read at least 25 books a year, and there's no 50 Shades of Gray, there's no Tom Clancy in there.
Mhm.
These are things that are going to help me become smarter, um, just better at business, better at
Mhm.
managing people, being a better leader,
Right.
and
So you never read
um,
any fiction?
no, no.
Okay.
Um, But they say that the average CEO reads 60 books a year. Right now, the average. This is in Wall Street Journal. I actually looked this up the other day. The average CEO salary is $780,000 a year.
Mhm.
Now, the median income for people in the United States of America is just, I think, 49,000 to $51,000. The average American only reads maybe one book or less a year.
Mhm.
So, do you think there is a direct correlation between salaries for people that read and people that don't?
Certainly sounds like it. Do you speed read or do you just read
Mm-mm.
like a normal
I
person?
don't speed do anything. I do know, like, there's a guy named Jim Quick that teaches people how to read faster so you can absorb more information. Me personally, I don't understand how you can absorb something. I'm one of those people. Um, it's called active listening. I know my martial arts instructor Josh used to get mad at me because he'd be explaining something to me, and then he goes, "It's almost like you're not paying attention or you don't care what I'm trying to tell." I said, "No, no, no. That's not it at all. It's because the first thing you told me out of the gate hit me, and I want to lock onto it for a second." He keeps going,
Mhm.
but I want to lock on that one thing. I'm like, and I want to dissect it.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of the same way with
you
with
wanna
reading.
analyze something that he said.
Yeah, so I'll read a paragraph. I've done this before. Yeah, I'm going to sit down and read for an hour, and
Mhm.
open up a book, and I'll read this first paragraph. Maybe something in there that I'm just like, wow, and I just want to. I just need a minute with that paragraph. I don't want to keep going. I want to think about that. And like, well, if I did that, man, I could do this. And you want to ponder on what was just the information that I just got. So sometimes
Yeah.
it does take me a little while to get through a book.
Yeah. I'm the
You know,
same way, like with listening to, I listen to a lot of, if not podcasts, just stuff
yeah,
on YouTube, people speaking about whatever, and I'll listen to an interview or a podcast or, somebody just talking about something and it'll start my brain going. And a lot of
yeah,
times I have to turn it off because it's like I'm continuing what I just heard, like in
yeah.
my own head, and
I'm the same way.
making contributions of my own. And I'll go to the gym and I'll get on the elliptical and I'll have my phone, to be listening to something, while I'm doing that. And there's times where I'll literally hit pause and I won't even come back to it for 45 minutes because my
Yeah.
own mind is just going and going. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's
So you know what
probably,
I'm talking about.
yeah, it
Yeah.
might indicate a lack of ability to focus. I mean, no, for
Guilty.
well, yeah,
Guilty.
for me, seriously, I mean, it's like sometimes it's very hard for me to focus on, like really focus on
Yeah.
something specific and, like um problem solving or whatever, my mind will just start to wander. And I think it's
Oh yeah.
probably, just a matter of trying to get control of, and discipline yourself to focus on something as opposed to just letting your mind go. So what would you say is like, what would you say is like, besides Rich Dad Poor Dad, would be like some of your favorite books that really enlightened you and helped you get on this path?
I mean, for me personally, I mean, everybody's different, right? Everybody has personality traits, strengths, and weaknesses. Things are good at, things are not good at, and so different books will resonate with different people based on what your goals are, whatever it is that you're trying to do. If
Mhm,
you're trying to be a chef, maybe a really good book by Bobby Flay would be good to read. But I'm not
mhm,
a chef, and I'm not going to cook, so I'm not going to read that book. A lot of the stuff that I read or I like is I will tell you there's three books, and I just mentioned them. Those are three books that I can tell you without a doubt
mhm.
changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah, that's what I want to
They
know.
they changed the trajectory. I would not be who I am today if it weren't for these three books and me not just reading them, but I have to read them, understand it, and then go out and work to apply what I learned. And that
Mhm,
is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert
mhm.
Kiyosaki, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Because if you're in a job or you're anywhere where you deal with people, that is the holy grail right there. I actually have all three of these on audiobook, and I'll go back and I'll listen to them from time to time. I
Mhm.
actually queued up Think and Grow Rich, which is the last one by
Mhm.
Napoleon Hill. I
Yeah.
queued it up again on my Audible coming home from golf this morning. So I'm gonna probably listen to that one again.
I'm listening to
Um,
that one right now, actually.
yeah, and it's a fantastic book. But there again, just because you read a book is not like, oh, I read this book, and all of a sudden I'm going to be wealthy, or all of a sudden I'm going to be smarter. It's only thing books do is sort of give you a map as to what to do.
Mhm,
But they're going to have a saying: nothing works unless you do. You
mhm,
can have all the information in the world, man, but if you don't go out and work and work at it
mhm.
and and really put forth the effort to do what they're telling you in the book, you might as well throw the book in the fireplace. Don't even waste your time reading it, because if you're
Right.
not willing to put the work in, the information is not going to do you any good.
Have you
But
heard
those,
about I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say those three books. I mean, there's a laundry list of other ones, but specifically geared towards business or leadership. Anything by John C. Maxwell is great. I've met him before. He's a fantastic human being.
Oh, you met him.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, okay.
Um,
Have you
yeah.
ever
When
met any of the others, like the famous kind of self-help, self-actualization people?
So there's a guy named Jesse Itzler. He lives here in Atlanta. He's
Mhm.
part owner of the Hawks. He started Marquis Jet, Zico Coconut Water. He's married to a girl named Sarah Blakely. So if women listen to this, if they wear Spanx, they know who Sarah is. She's a billionaire, which I
Wow.
guess makes Jesse a billionaire because he's married to her. But he's a guy kind of like I. He's super competitive. He does these ultra races, Ironmans, all these running things, and he loves. He's very outgoing, man, and he was in music for a little while. He was
Mhm.
a rapper. Now he's like a 6'4" tall white Jewish rapper, which as you can imagine didn't go over very well unless you're in the Beastie Boys. But
Right.
those experiences made him who he is now, and now he's a fantastic guy,
Mhm.
fantastic entrepreneur, and
Would you say is
I
he
met
somebody
him.
you have a relationship with, or you just met him?
I've met him a few times, so I've gone to some of his events.
Mhm.
If you look up Jesse Itzler, he has a
Mhm.
company called 29029, which is Everesting. It's
Mhm.
where I went out to this mountain in Utah, and about 230 of us went up this massive mountain over the course of about 32 hours,
Mhm.
as many times as we could do it. And he was up there. It's his event, and so I've met him there. We've been out by a fire at one of his places up in the North Georgia mountains, and had some drinks and talked and stuff. So he's very, very good about giving his time and just chatting.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a lot of people I'd love to meet, but I have
Right.
not yet. But for right now, I just, you know, absorb the books and do
Mhm.
my best to hopefully one day be on a level where I can meet people like that.
Have you ever heard of the concept? I think it's called the money barometer, and
No.
it's the idea, if I'm expressing it right, I may not be, but that people, just like people have different personalities, people have different relationships with the concept of money and the
Right.
concept of wealth, and that it's almost like a genetic thing in a way, like that people are disposed of thinking about money and wealth and acquiring money and wealth in different ways, and that there are some people who just like they'll never be they'll never be wealthy because their relationship to money, or at least their relationship to the idea of money or acquiring money, is toxic in a way. They and
Yeah, I agree.
I understand that because I suffer from that, I think, myself in some ways. I mean, it's like, do I fantasize about having lots of money? Obviously. Do I think about what I would do if I had all this money? And, do I think about, finding that winning lottery ticket and all that stuff? Obviously I do. But I also sometimes think, well, what kind of person would it make me? Do I want to be that kind of person? Because I've met people that are, I've met people that are very driven people,
Yeah,
very driven to succeed, who I don't really care for as people. You know what I mean? And
right.
and I think to myself, it's like avariciousness. Do I want to be an avaricious person? Do I want to be the kind of person who, is like money, 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 money? It's like all I care about is money. I don't care about anything, and it's like I realize that's a simplistic, almost kind of childish way of looking at it, but I know I struggle with my own negative thoughts. I struggle with my own limiting thoughts, and I struggle with, like, thinking about, man, I want to dedicate myself to acquiring money because I want to take care of my family. I want to be able to do nice things for my family. I want drum equipment. I want, podcasting equipment. I want all this stuff. But do I want to be the kind of person that I would have to be? Because I don't even know really what kind of person I would have to be to really kind of, make that a goal. Like, I've never been a goal oriented person, and I've known people who are very meticulous about, you know, the way they kept their lives. They have an office that's immaculate, and
Yeah,
a thing for everything and everything in its place. And you know when I was younger, that came across as kind of anal retentive to me, and I've never really connected with that. But then again, also, I know that being poor sucks. I mean,
yeah.
being
It
poor
does.
fucking
It
sucks.
does.
you
Yeah,
know
it does.
so I get trapped between those two ideas. It's like, I understand intellectually about, everything we're talking about, like I'm listening to Think and Grow Rich, and I really find it fascinating, the whole idea that, um, fortunes come from ideas, and, bringing ideas forth into the physical world and all those. I understand it all intellectually, but for some reason for myself, I haven't been able to internalize it yet. And I don't know why that is. But I kind of went off on a tangent here a little bit, but I was
No, I
just
mean,
I
all
was
those are
wondering what
great
you think about
points.
the whole idea of kind of like the money barometer, that we all kind of have a barometer of wealth.
We do.
And some people, like, it's almost like they're destined to stay poor. I mean, what do you think about that?
I think that in theory you are correct because you are a product of your environment. I think to
Mhm.
some regards. I, let me do an experiment with you.
Mhm.
Complete my sentence.
Sure.
Money is the
Well, I'm not gonna say the root of all evil because I don't believe that.
okay, but that is a saying, right?
It is, yeah,
Money
but I
doesn't grow
I don't
on.
believe that.
Yeah, money doesn't grow on.
Trees.
Right. So
But it
there's
does
all the,
grow.
huh?
It does grow. I mean, in a way, it kinda grows on trees,
Somewhat, yeah.
You plant it and you cultivate it right, and it will grow,
Yeah,
right?
like rich people are.
Assholes.
Yeah, see?
I
So
don't mean that, but
we are we as a society and in some regards, these are all sayings that get passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. And
Mhm.
there is a such thing as wealth envy. There are people that hate people because they're rich, and
Oh,
because
yeah.
they're
Oh, yeah.
successful.
Absolutely.
Um, and these things are passed down from generation to generation. I'm one of those people that believe that money is going to make you more of what you already are. There's
Mm.
a reason why, and you brought up the whole lottery thing. I do not play the lottery. I have a couple times. At the time it got up over $1 billion, I was like, I'm playing that shit. I said, I'm gonna get me a ticket. but
I
but
I can count on 2 hands probably the number of
yeah,
times I bought a lottery ticket.
me too. Because I don't want to win the lottery. Going back to my story about the bike, I want to earn it. I
Mm.
want to know that I got there because of me, not because I just happened to be at Quick Trip at 4:30 in the afternoon on a Friday the day before the lottery.
Mhm.
I want to know it's because of something that I did and my skills, my work, my traits, the things that I did got me there. So the whole lottery thing, if you notice, and there are a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, when somebody who is very broke or very poor
Mhm.
wins that kind of money,
They end up
what
poor again.
usually happens? They wind up in a worse spot, a
They
worse
Yeah, they
spot.
wish they'd never there's a lot of people who say they wish they'd never won. It's funny, my wife and I, one time when we were, you ever seen the TV show Deal or No Deal?
No,
Do you remember it? Okay. It
I've
was a
heard of it, but yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't watched it.
Without getting into the details of how the show went, it was a game show, and people had the opportunity to win $1,000,000.
Yeah,
That's a big prize for a game show,
yeah,
and we were
especially if you're broke.
right, yeah. Well, we were watching, some just it was at night, we're looking for something to kind of watch, and we came across old episodes of that show, and it's a fun show. So we were watching some of them, and there was a woman who was playing, and they like have you when you're playing, they have your family there kind of coaching you and everything. And they were getting close to this $1,000,000 prize, and they actually won it. They won $1,000,000. And like they were all just like so overcome, with this. And apparently reading on later, the woman was like, it actually made our lives way worse,
Yeah,
because now all of a sudden, like they have a large extended family that just saw them win $1,000,000 on TV.
yeah.
Well, everybody,
Well,
all the vultures started circling around like, "Hey,
exactly,
can you loan me
exactly.
this? Can you loan me that? Can you give me this? You just won $1,000,000. You can't give me $1,000 for, whatever." And it's just
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
so I often thought, whenever I like the fantasy that I kind of allowed myself to indulge in was like winning the lottery, but not winning, hundreds of millions or some ridiculous prize. I always thought it'd be nice to win just like enough of a chunk of money where I could just start at zero,
yeah.
like just like clear out any debts and just kind of hit the reset button. Like I'm back at zero again, and I have a little bit
You'll
of a nest egg
find
to
that,
start with. Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, you'll find that as you go through the book Think and Grow Rich, man, that it says, when you're truly ready for something, it will present itself.
Mhm.
and not before. If it does come before, and I'll go back to these are why these three books that I mentioned are so important. Um, is that when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, um, there's a thing called financial intelligence.
Mhm.
Most people, when they go to school, they don't teach you financial intelligence. They teach you
No.
how to be an employee. So
Right.
if you want to have money, you have to have the financial intelligence, not only how to get it, but how to receive it and how to manage it and how to make it work for you, or you will lose it.
That's right.
And that's why people that live in a trailer park, they win this scratch off, and next thing they've got $2 or $3 million. Their life goes to hell in a handbasket because they're not built to have that kind of money. If they were,
Mhm.
they would have already acquired it.
Right.
So it actually makes it worse. So to me, I'm one of those people that believe it, and I guess it all goes back to your belief about money. You know, I
Yeah.
don't believe that rich people are bad. I mean, there's bad poor people. There's bad rich people.
Mhm.
Having money doesn't make you good or bad. Having money just makes you more of what you already are.
Mhm.
If you're a very philanthropic, giving, loving, caring type of person and you have a lot, you're going to want to give it back.
Mhm.
If you're stingy and greedy and you have an alcohol problem or a drug problem and you win $2 or $3 million, you're probably going to die. Because
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
it makes you more of what you already are. You have
Yeah, if
to
you've
ask
got a pretty
yourself.
bad alcohol problem and you win the lottery,
Yeah.
you're not gonna be around long.
Yeah. Or you're going to look really bad. You're going to like a struck match. But you have to ask yourself why. What's your why? I always ask people, what's your why? Like, well, I don't know what you're talking about, or I ask people, what do you want?
Mm,
What do you want to want? You have to know your why. And it took me a long time to realize that, like what
yeah.
my why was. And if your why is, I want to help people, I want to be able to take care of my family, I want to be able to make sure that my kids have a good education, I want to make sure that my health care is taken care of, I want to make sure that my lights don't get turned off, I want to make sure that I can eat good food, I want to make sure, blah, blah, blah. You have to figure out what your why is. And if those whys are noble causes, then I'm telling you, you have to give yourself permission and okay to have money, because having money is not bad, dude. I mean, you said it earlier, man. Being broke sucks. It's hard, you know. Well, having and controlling and keeping money is hard too. Pick your hard, you know.
Yep. I remember that meme you showed me. It's like it was breaking out of your comfort zone is hard. Being broke is hard. Pick your hard.
Yeah,
Which hard do you want?
exactly.
And it's true. I actually believe that. I actually sat down today, I was listening to Think and Grow Rich, and I can't
Better
remember.
stop that. You might be successful. You don't
Well,
want that.
can't have that. Um, and even just talking about it, I have to get over this, but even talking about this makes me feel a little weird because I imagine what certain people I know would say about what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And that's one of my personal problems is worrying a little too much about what other people are going to think, you know? Um, but he was talking about like what would you do if you had $1 million? Like if somebody gave you $1 million,
This
what
is
would,
in the book, right? That
yeah.
you're talking about the Gonzalez guy, right?
Well, I was listening to Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah,
Yeah. While I
yeah.
was driving. And so, you know, I was only kind of half paying attention because I was driving, but that struck me. I'm just trying to absorb it. I'm gonna I want to get through it, and then I want to listen to it again. I want to listen to it again. I mean,
I've
you know,
listened to it probably 10 times and I'm
yeah,
starting to get again. You can
yeah,
never
and
listen to that thing too much.
I plan to listen to it and a lot of other things, several times. But the whole idea of like, if somebody just handed you $1 million, boom,
Yeah.
right now, like, what would you do? And I sat down today and I actually sat down with a notebook and and a pen and
You wrote it down.
I
That's
wrote
very good.
yeah,
That's
well,
very
hold
good.
on.
Yeah.
Hang on. Like this is I don't know if you can see it, but
It's funny, man. No, that's good.
and
See this?
yeah.
I write things down every single day, and there's a system to it.
Yeah.
Um, it's just writing things down, manifesting things. Yeah, but most
Yeah.
people don't write their goals down. They can't articulate it. But the fact that you did that is very good.
It's tough for me because I have so many, like, just kind of I have so many just kind of vague goals. Like, I wanna play drums. I'm gonna wanna play drums for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
Even though I left active touring, if an opportunity arose, I would take it. I love doing art. I was just doing a little creating art earlier today. I love this. I love podcasting. I mean, I
yeah,
think constantly about the conversations I want to have with people who are out there in like the internet world. Um, and I want to do copywriting too. When I did my GoFundMe campaign, for starting the art, I kind of had to write out like my story, and it took me a while, but I really enjoyed, and I've written before, but
yeah,
I really enjoyed sitting down and kind of crafting out my story and looking it over and editing it and deciding, oh, that needs to go there and this needs to go there and making it flow. Um and I've been a lot more kind of hyper aware when I see certain things and think, like seeing copy, like advertising copy or something,
yeah,
and I can write that better, and so I've done a couple of things, like I rewrote a bio for somebody. Um, I mean, they already were using their own bio, but I sent it to them and said, "Hey, if you like this, and they said, if they ever need something written again, they'll contact me. I mean, whether that'll actually happen, who knows? But I really enjoy it. So it's
yeah,
like I want to play drums, I want to podcast, I want to paint, I want to copyright, I want to do, and that's just the first few things that I want to do. I want to do all these things, but what I need to do is get it's the planning, it's the actual getting a actual plan in place that's always been difficult for me. But I'm taking the first step. I'm listening to the right things, and I'm trying to write down my goals. And tell me about your vision board, because I saw that when I was at your house that time, and
yeah. I'm
it's
looking at
pretty.
it right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So when did that start?
But going back to what you were just
Yeah.
saying, though, writing it down is very important. I hate
Mhm.
when people say, "Oh, I know what I want. I want some money." Well, that's great. How much is some? Because some
Yeah,
to
it's like,
me may not be some to you. You know?
I mean, I'm sure you have some money.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like
you
I
mean you
can give
don't
you a quarter. There, here. Now
yeah,
you have some
now
money.
you have some money. It's like, look
Yeah.
in your bank account. You got 20 bucks in there? You've got
You
some
you
money.
you have to be specific, man. And
Right.
so, I want to lose some weight. Okay, well, how much do you weigh now? 250. What's some? If you were 249 tomorrow, then you lost some weight. If you
That's
lost 100 pounds, well, you lost some weight too. It's a big sum.
Yeah. You
So,
you wanna lose some weight, put your hand down there on the counter, hold still. Whack. Well,
yeah.
you're a
So,
little lighter than you just were.
yeah. So, what I always tell people, I mean, even some people in my company, I said, you know, you take whatever goals you have, is you got to write it down. I can't stress that. Anybody listen to this, if you have a goal, be very, very, very specific. If you want to lose some weight, write down the specific number. And then you have to say, okay, what by when? You
Mhm.
can't just say, oh, I want to do that. And then it languish on, for the next 10 or 12 years. I'm going to get there one day. Well, it's only 3 pounds. Surely in 10 or 12 years, you can do that, because
Mhm.
you're not going to be inclined or motivated, or there's not going to be that sort of that pressure to hurry up and get it done. But if you don't set a timetable, so if you write it down, be very specific, and give a timetable for its attainment. Say, I want to earn $100,000 a year. Okay, well, how much do you make now? $50,000 a year. Okay, so in the next 3 years, I want to make $100,000. Well, then once you write it down and you have a date, write down the date. Hell, you can write down the time if you want to.
I did
If
that.
you
I
if
actually
you
have a
put
piece
that
of
up,
paper. Yeah.
yeah, and if you put that up and here's the thing, you can write it down on a notepad, but if you stick it off in a drawer somewhere and you never see it, it'll never happen. You have
Right.
to put it, make it your screensaver,
Mhm.
put a poster on your wall somewhere, like, and put a sticky note on your mirror on your bathroom, but make it where there's a reminder, like, hey, 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 hey. You're like, what? And you're like, you will see it every day, and you will get it done. Your wife, if she says take out the trash, if she just says it once, do you ever do it? No. But if
Mm.
she says take out the trash, take out the trash, take out the trash, take out the trash, damn it, I'll take it, and then you take the trash out. But it has to be consistent. It has to
Right.
be persistent. So
Right.
write it down. Be very, very, very specific, and give it a timetable. So anyway, what was your question? Sorry. Oh,
No, I was just
the vision board. The vision
yeah,
board.
yeah, yeah. Because I mean, your vision board is it's I mean, it's visual. You have
Yeah.
images on your. I think that's. I thought it was interesting. I just wanted you to kind of talk about it a little bit. When did that start? And um,
I found out about vision boards. If you anybody listening to this, you probably have Netflix. Look up a movie called The Secret. And there's a guy on there I want to point you to. His name's Dr. Joe Vitale. I'm going to send you his stuff whenever we get off this call here. But
I'm glad you said that because I think I've heard of that book, The Secret, which is about
watch the
visualization.
movie. Watch the movie. So
Is it
there's a
about the
movie.
visualization thing?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I didn't know
And
there was a movie. I'm glad you said that. I'm gonna watch that tonight.
it's on Netflix. Yeah, I've watched it several times. In fact, I'm all excited. I'll probably watch it again. But it's called The Secret, and it talks about the law of attraction and bringing things into your life. But and so I learned about vision boards there. This guy's name is Dr. John Asraf. He actually I see him on uh, what do you call it? Stupid app. I can't think of it now. Instagram. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
And he told a story. He was just getting into speaking and writing books and stuff, and they lived in this house, and so he started creating a vision board one day, and he put this picture of this house that he had driven by and saw it. So he got the real estate listing. He cut a picture of the house out and he put it on his vision board. Never thought anything of it. As years go by, as his career kind of takes off and picks up, and he's got this vision board in his office, and he looks at it. He just looks at it, gets all excited. Oh my God, that'd be great if I had this, and you get this emotional charge out of it. And 2 or 3 years go by, and he's doing well enough in life now, so he moves houses. He moves into this house that he really loves, and so he's in his
Mhm.
office one afternoon, and his son's in there, and there's some boxes in his office. He's trying to unpack his office. His son's on top of this box, kind of kicking it, and he's like, "Son, stop it." He goes, if you're going to kick the box, at least help me unpack it. Okay, okay. So he opens up the box and he pulls it. He goes, "What is this, Daddy?" And he goes, "Oh, look at that." He goes, "That's Daddy's vision board." He goes, "What's a vision board?" He goes, "Well, this is a vision board where you put visual representations of things that you want to do, be, or have in your life." And as he's talking to his son, he looks and he goes, "Oh my God!" And he sits there and he sits down and he just starts crying. And his son's like, Daddy, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And so he looked on the vision board, that house that he cut out, that's the house he just moved in. He didn't even know.
You didn't even realize it?
He didn't even realize it.
The
That
exact
was
house.
the exact house. And I
Wow.
was like, wow. So I said,
Wow. That sounds
I'm making
that
me a
sounds
damn vision
crazy.
board. And so anyway, what a vision board is it's basically a picture frame
Mhm.
where you take out like mine now. My vision board doesn't have to be what yours is. You may want to do, be, or have things that are completely different than what I want.
Mhm.
So it should be a visual representation and a reminder of like when you close your eyes and you think about your perfect life. Like if you could snap your fingers and have your life, you can make any amount of money. You can look however you want. You can go anywhere you want. You can drive anything you want. You can live in anything. What does that life look like? And when you open my eyes, I want to see that on this board.
Mm.
And so it's designed so that when you look at it, you get not only see it, but you have an emotional attachment to it because you can want to do something, but if you're not emotionally um consumed or involved with where you want to go, if it's just
Right.
like I don't really care if I do it or not, you probably won't. But if it's like I have got to make that happen, I've got to make that happen. That's what I have on my vision board. So I've got a combination of things that I would like to have
Mhm.
and things that I've accomplished. Um, things that how I want to look physically, the car I
Mhm.
want to drive, and I've also got a bunch of little sayings and stuff um, around here too. And the very top of my vision board it says, "To get something you've never had, you have to do something you've
You
never
know.
done."
Mhm.
And Ed Milet's got something on there that says, "You are one relationship away from a completely different life." And there's another badge on here that says, "There's a future me who's glad that I never gave up." And
Yeah.
I mean, I have several of those. So to me personally, I've got some jets on there. I've got a picture of this corporate jet with my company's logo on it.
Mhm.
Um, I rented a Ferrari when I was in Hawaii one time for my birthday because I wanted to be like Magnum PI. So I'm driving around the island on Hawaii in this badass Ferrari and stuff. So I
Please
got to
tell me that you put a mustache, like a fake
yeah.
mustache.
That would have been great. That would have been great. But you know, and there's a I got this watch that I always wanted on it, but now I've got it. So that's one thing I have on there. There's also a big yacht with a helicopter on the back of it. I'm not quite to that yet, but
Right.
it's but there's a house on there that I cut out and I took a picture of
Mm.
that it's actually here in Atlanta. It's one of the first my houses I saw. I was like, oh, I gotta have that house, and I've been by this house 200 times probably. And I remember I was looking at it one night when we lived in a really small house. It was literally about the size of this notepad, the house that we lived in. And my mother-in-law came over, and they came up to visit my wife and I. And my wife's like, "Show her that dumb house you were looking at." I was like, "Okay." So I pull the real estate listing up for this house. And at the time, the house was about 12.7 million. And I'm
Wow.
showing and she's like, "Wow, oh yeah, oh, that's really pretty." He goes, and she looked at me. She goes, and she said this to me. She goes, "Don't you think you should lower your sights a little bit?" And I go, I'm like, dude, I was like, man,
I don't understand what you just said.
yeah, that right there, dude, that was, mm,
Yeah, how can I mean, I get that. I mean, like,
dude,
why would you say to
I want to
somebody
buy it just out of spite now.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, just to wrap it up about the vision board, I have that here in my office. And
Mhm.
my goals I have personally and for business are written on a big whiteboard up above that. And they're pretty specific. It's by a certain date. And yeah, and so I come in here every morning. I look at that and I look at this board because I get excited when I see some of these things on it, and that excitement is what's
Mhm.
going to drive me to do the work. And
Yeah.
so yeah, vision boards are great. And you know the movie The Secret, well, you'll hear that story, and it's great to hear that guy tell that story. I hope that happens to me
I'm
one day.
watching that tonight.
Yeah,
I'm watching that tonight for sure. Yeah, because yeah, I just like for myself, I need to focus and because I just have all these things I want to do and just the whole kind of vision board and everything. I was always a little bit cynical, and I have to fight cynicism um, because I don't know. I mean, it's a function of my personality that I have. I have a bit of a cynical personality. Like I understand things on one level, but then there's this other part of me for some reason that's always like, yeah, there's something, there's something somebody's not telling you, like
yeah,
um and I don't know why that is because, I believe that people have, you know, bootstrap their way into fortunes, that people have
yeah,
started
absolutely.
that people have started with nothing and were able to, just by the sheer will and hard work and diligence and all those things have been able to make incredible lives for themselves. I mean, I believe that on an intellectual level. I don't know what it is about me that isn't able to make the connection that like I could be one of those people. I think about being in my mid 50s and think sometimes it's like, that little devil on my shoulder wants to say, you know, it's too late. You're in your mid 50s and like financially you've basically got nothing. What are you going to do, I think about somebody like Colonel Sanders, who didn't even start Kentucky Fried Chicken until he was 65. Have you ever heard that one?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a great point.
Like he started businesses and everything, but he went broke so many times. And the
Yeah.
thing that finally did it, the thing that finally made him not only wealthy but like iconic, he didn't even start it until he was 65, you
There's
know?
always time, you know. I mean, it's optimally you'd want to do it in your 20s and have this big company and ride off into the sunset as this wealthy, happy guy, right? But
Mhm.
let me ask you this. So when you were growing up, I mean, tell me a little bit about your parents, like your mom and your dad. I mean, because we are programmed at a young age to be how we are.
Mhm.
And I, you know, because and the reason why I ask you that is, you know, my parents taught me some specific things that I can see in me now. My wife, you know, she's definitely a product of her parents. They're great people, but
Mhm.
um, the same mother-in-law that told me I should lower my sights, you know,
Yeah.
she's got a little bit of that doubt, you know, with her. She's very cautious. She's very risk avert. I'm very risk tolerant. But
Right.
do you think that the way that you are stems from your parents?
Well, I mean, everybody's the product of their parents to some degree, and my parents, as much as I love them and they're wonderful people. My dad, passed away in 2000, and my mom is, she's still here. Um, you know, this is a tough one for me because I don't want to sound like the kind of person who blames their lot in life on their parents, because I take responsibility for where I am. I've made a lot of
Good.
poor decisions in my life, particularly financially. And I didn't have enough ambition. My relationship to money is never. I always accepted the idea in my life. Oh, I'm just not good with money. I'm one of those people who's just not good with money. You know.
Sounds
Um,
like what you tell yourself is sort of the one thing that's kind of holding you back. It's not necessarily the people or things around you. It's this.
yeah,
It's
well,
what's
yeah,
going
it
on
is.
between your two ears.
It is. It absolutely is. And I have a lifetime of kind of convincing myself of, I was always I always had a confidence problem just as a person. As a kid, I grew up shy. I grew up, I always struggled with my weight. I always struggled with, I was a very sensitive kid. I was very sensitive to, you know, being picked on, that kind of thing.
Yeah, me too.
Um, and, I was always kinda, I had my group of friends when I was growing up, but I was always kind of the friend who was like, you remember in, Stand By Me, did you ever see the movie Stand
Yeah,
By
that was a
Me?
great movie. Yeah,
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 the roly-poly kid who was kind of the butt of the jokes and all this stuff.
yeah.
That was always me. I'm not trying to, not trying to engender sympathy or anything, but that's who I was. I never a highly confident person. And in terms of like the future, and well, first of all, I didn't really grow up with my dad in the house. My mom and dad separated
Yeah.
when I was 7, and so we lived with my mom, and my sister and I lived with my mom in my grandmother's house, which is fine. Um, but the life lesson that I always got was study hard in school, go to college, and then you can get a good job that'll pay you a good pension.
That's
That was
exactly why you should read Rich Dad Poor Dad because
right.
he
Well,
got the same thing, and
yeah,
that's exactly, you know,
right, and
it's definitely not too late.
but
I'll tell you that.
that's where
Yeah,
I came from, and I'm not,
most
but
people do.
yeah,
I got
and
the
like,
same thing. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
just
but
wasn't good at school, so college was not even in my windshield. I mean,
well, yeah, by the time I was 10 years old and I got my first drum kit, it was like, well, my life is set. I'm
yeah,
gonna be
me too.
by the time I'm 18, I'm gonna be touring, flying around on planes, touring on buses, and selling out arenas and having people clamor for my autograph. What the hell do I need with doing good in school? It's like I'm already so,
Yeah, I was
you
the
know,
same way.
there was that, toxic combination, and I convinced myself a long time ago, I told myself that I was, a musician for better or worse. I was committed to it. So nothing else ever entered my mind, like the idea of quitting and getting a job or anything like that. And so what kind of happened for me was, even though I always struggled financially, I was always able to kind of like, you know, get by, between playing drums and having a job, I was always able to get by. And for a long time, I convinced myself that getting by was fine. It's like I'm doing what I love to do. I'll never get rich. I would tell myself I'll never get rich doing it. I've told myself in my life before, I'm never going to be rich. I mean, what better formula for not getting rich than to tell yourself I'll
Yeah.
never be rich,
Yeah. 50
And
Cent would never do that. 50 Cent said, "I'm gonna get rich or die trying." So he
right.
he 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 was committed. He
Yeah,
was never gonna be, and he is.
I was never committed really to anything except being quote unquote a good person, you know, like
Why
whatever
not do
that means.
both? Why not do both?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
What's
that's just
better than a really good person who's really rich and can help other people?
for
That's
some
what I
reason,
that's what I want to do.
I don't know. I don't ever remember my parents as a kid specifically instilling in me the idea that, uh the old Bible adage of, the rich man has, what is it? The camel has the better chance of fitting through the eye of a needle than the rich man getting into heaven. Have you heard that from the Bible?
No, but it doesn't surprise me that it just goes back to what we talked about before. How most people aren't rich, most people aren't wealthy, so they tend to have they tend to hate on people that are,
Yeah, well, it's just there's something in our culture
which is
that
sad. I think.
I do too. There's something deeply ingrained in our culture, and it had its effect on me that makes this separation between the pursuit of personal wealth and the pursuit of, um, being a good person, of being a worthwhile person that like, and Hollywood tells us these things, in movies and everything, but, Hollywood movies will talk about, how like bad it is or, how, bad it is for your character or whatever, to pursue money. The image in the Hollywood movie of the person I mean, when's the last time you saw a Hollywood movie that portrayed a business executive or somebody who uh is in business heroically? You don't.
Duh, Wolf of Wall Street.
Well, no, but I
I'm
mean,
kidding. I'm kidding.
yeah, but you know what I
Oh,
mean, like Wolf of
yeah,
Wall
yeah,
Street and all those kind of movies,
yeah.
um,
Let me ask you this though. I
The whole
mean, do you
Gordon
think you're a
Gekko
good
thing.
person?
I'm sorry?
Do you think you're a good person?
Yeah, generally speaking.
If you were wealthy, do you still think that you would still in your core be a good person?
Yeah, I do.
Do
But
you
I
think that
believe
you
that in
would
here. I haven't been able to put it in here yet.
well, yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know.
and there are a lot of good, I hate to say it, but there's a lot of good books that you
Mhm,
can either listen to and or read that can help out with that because you're right, man. It's how we've been programmed since childhood. And
mhm,
it's those of us or those people who want to sort of break out of that and go
mhm,
in a different direction. Um, that sort of changes our lineage, right?
mhm.
You have a small child. I mean, do you want your child to grow up thinking that he can't do something or he's not?
No,
Oh, well, because he grew up in this economic class, he can never be that. I mean,
no,
you don't want him thinking like that, do you? But he's going to
no.
look at you as the example, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah.
And I personally know two or three people. One I happen to host a podcast with as well. Who, man, he grew up bad. I mean, he didn't have any money. His dad was a piece of work, and I'm not talking about in a good way either. He had
Mhm,
no good male figures around in his life ever. His daughter just graduated from college with honors. His son is a straight A student. He
mhm,
owns a business. He's a pastor in a church now. My other friend, Candido, he immigrated here when I don't know, he was 3 or 4 years old. His parents brought him across the Rio Grande River in the middle of the night,
Wow.
and he had no choice in that. And he owns a business now, multi-million-dollar business. He owns his own home. He owns his own car. He as a father, he has a daughter and a son now. He is in their lives like this. Those two guys that I know of have changed the lineage of their entire family because they believed they wanted something better. They put the work in, but they
Mhm.
also read one the Bible, the other one self-help books, just like I do.
Mhm.
And but they put the work in. And the last part of that is, and I have a story to go along with this too, but it's your group of friends, man. It's the people you hang around. It's the
Mhm.
people that that you listen to, that you interact with on a day-to-day basis. This guy came into my office one time looking for a job, young guy. He had, he was dressed kind of but he told me he was working a donut shop making $8 an hour. And I said, well, why do you want to work here? He says, honestly, he goes, I just want to start over. I said, why? I said, because I had something bad happen in my life last week. I said, what happened? He says, well, my brother shot and killed himself in front of me. I was like,
Damn.
damn. I said, why do you
Wow.
do that? I was just strung out on drugs and alcohol and partying, and he just depressed. And he says, I said, well, do you have parents? He goes, yeah, I have my parents. He goes, I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, what's your why? What do you want? I said, what do
Mhm.
you want to do? He goes, nobody's ever asked me that. I said, correct. I said, but I'm asking you, what's your why? He goes, I want to make enough money where I can buy my parents a house so they don't have to worry
Mhm.
about where to live. I said, that's a very good why. I said, and I want you to write down a couple more, but that's your why. That's why you want to work here, so you can be around people. I said, I'm going to tell you now, my guys that work in this company, they don't do drugs. They're not alcoholics. They're not out gambling. They're not out at the bars. They're about family. They're about getting better. They're about reading. They're about working as a team. I said, and that's what I expect you to do here. And I told him, I said, who's your best friend? And he started telling me. I was like, what, was he there whenever your brother shot himself? He says, yeah. I said, he smoked pot? He goes, yeah. He does drugs? Yeah. Drink? Yeah. I said, let me
You need
explain
a new
this to
best
you.
friend.
Yeah, I said, let me explain this to you. You can come here and I can teach you and help you. I basically doubled his pay. I gave him
Mhm.
$15 an hour as opposed to 8, more, just under doubling it.
Mhm.
Gave him an opportunity to work around me and our people in this company. And I said, you can have all these great and wonderful things, but if you go home every night and you hang out with a bunch of shitheads, you are going to be a shithead.
Mhm.
Period. If you
Yep.
go home and you hang out with people that read books, that go to the gym, that work out, you will read books and go to the gym and work out, and you'll make positive changes in your life, man. You really have to be. I can't stress this enough to anybody listening to this, man. Be very cognizant of who you allow yourself to spend time with, because those people affect you whether you think so or not. They influence you whether you think so or not. As an old meme I saw, it says, "Hang out with 5 millionaires, you'll be the fifth. I mean,
Yeah.
you'll be the sixth." And so I would give you that advice. I give myself that advice, and anybody else, man. Hang out with people who are smarter than you. Hang out with people that are in better shape than you are. Hang out with people who are more successful in business than you are. Ask them questions. Listen. I
Mm.
said, because that's how you learn. That's it, the whole guilt by association. Would you rather be hanging around with a bunch of shitheads and be guilty of being a shithead, or hanging out with a bunch of people who are successful and get after it and
Yeah.
love their wife and take care of their kids and have a plan for their life and are out beating the brakes off it every day to execute it? Would you rather hang out with them? Who knows what's going to rub off on you? Hang out with some guys like that,
Yeah.
you know?
It reminds me of a story when I was working at that restaurant, a different person, a whole different set of circumstances. But there was this girl that worked there who was dating this guy, and she told me that like uh he hangs out with a bunch of gangbangers, although he's not a gangbanger himself. He hangs
Yes, he
out with a
is.
bunch of them. Well,
Yes,
I
he is.
told her, I was like, you need to get away from this guy. And she was like, no, but we love each other, and
Doesn't matter.
he doesn't do any of those things. He doesn't do anything illegal. They're just his friends. And I was like, it's like if he hangs out with gangbangers, it's going to come back on him, which means it's going to come back on you. It's like he
Yeah.
he may not actually be a gangbanger, but if those are his friends and he hangs out with them, he might as well be. And then you might as well be, because that shit is going to come back on
Yeah,
you. So,
I
yeah,
agree, man.
yeah.
And we had a podcast and we were talking about your circle of influence.
Mhm.
And this was not a very popular thing for me to say, but it's proof. I'm going to make this point and you prove me wrong, right?
Mhm.
So, getting back to what we were talking about, if you hang out with people, they drink beer, they gamble, they smoke, they cuss, they cheat on their girlfriends, they cheat on their wives, they don't make good money, they don't take care of themselves, and that's your circle of friends. That is what you were going to be like.
Mhm.
Period.
Yep.
And but yet, to my other point, if you hang out with people who are successful, they go to the gym, they love their wives, they take care of their kids, they're present, they study hard, they work hard at work, and they do a lot of things to get better. You know that you surround yourself with those kinds of people. That's how you are going to be. It's just
Mhm.
that's just the way it is. And
Yeah.
so I was kind of lost my train of thought because I'm old now, but
That happens to me all the time.
getting back, as I was saying before, you have to ask yourself at the end of the day, when you finish your day, you have to ask yourself, are the things that I did today, the actions that I took today, getting me closer to my goals or farther away? Did they make me better or did they make me worse? And you can say the same thing about your circle of friends. And I made the statement that I don't care if you've been best friends with somebody since you were 5 years old. If they do not serve you, if they're
Mhm.
not aligned with your goals and where you're going, I'm not saying you don't ever have to speak to them, but you do not need to be hanging around with them all the time. If
Mhm.
it is, I don't care if it's your brother. I don't care if it's that's my brother. We're related. I don't care. If your
Right.
brother is a gangbanger and your brother's a shithead, don't hang out with him. If that's
Right.
not in line with what you want to do and what you want to be. But there again, it boils down to you have to have you close your eyes. I look at this vision board. You have to have a clear idea of where you want to go and who you want to be, what you're about, and who you're going to be. Write it down, and anything that doesn't get you closer, anybody that doesn't help get you closer, cut them out of your life. What about my mom? Yes, your mom. Like, yes, your dad. Yes,
Mhm.
your best friend. Yes, your boss. I mean, and if your boss,
Or
wherever you work,
at least distance yourself from them, like.
yeah, yeah. I'm not saying that like if it's your brother or your sister, oh, they got in a car wreck. Well, I'm not going to go there because it's your it's your family.
Yeah, yeah.
Go be with them. But I'm saying you don't have to take their advice. You don't have to hang out with them. You don't have to listen to what they have to say. You don't have to include them in your world or your circle of
Right.
friends.
They don't have to be part like if you have a family member that's toxic to what it is you wanna become, they're your family, you don't have to excise them from your life, but you have to
Yeah,
you have to insulate yourself against them being in, like you said, your sphere of influence.
you do.
Like you said, if
You do.
you get the call that they're in the hospital, of course you go see them and you go be there for them, but you don't allow their toxicity to influence you.
Right. And I'm not saying this stuff because I read it in a book. There
Mhm.
again, I'll go all the way back to when I found myself in Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. I was
Mhm.
not in a good place. I did not hang around good people. I did not make good choices. I did not have good examples around me, and it almost cost me my life. I didn't
Wow.
really have a life then. Fast forward till now that I'm 51, I go out of my way. I flew to Texas last week just to
Mhm.
have dinner with a guy that's worth $400 million. He's got his own jet. He's got his own plane. He's happy. He's grown a business. He has a son that's taken over his business. He has fun. He enjoys his life, and he's a very very knowledgeable man. And you know,
How did it
I
come about that you were able to do that? Like, go hang
I
out with.
I went out to a conference to become smarter
Mhm.
and to educate myself and to go interview somebody to come work for our company. And I met him out at a conference out in San Antonio. And when I realized who he was and what he had done, I asked him, I said, hey, if I were to come back out to Texas, if I just happened to be in Houston, Texas, would you let me take you and your son out to dinner and for drinks one night? Because I said, I have some questions. I said, I have a growing business. My goal is to be at the level that you are. I said, I'd like to know how you did it. And I'd like to know how. maybe some of the pitfalls that you were able to avoid, or maybe some bad things, or some good lessons that you learned from bad times. I said, I am all ears. I said, I will pay for your dinner. I'll pay for your drinks. I said, everything's on me. I'll fly back out here. Would you be willing to give me the time if I do that? And he says, absolutely. So he gave me his card. I said, the day I got home, I emailed him back. I said, I'm going to let you know. And I did. And we had dinner twice. He actually took me to his suite at the place where the Houston Rockets play. We watched Justin Bieber. It was a Justin Bieber concert, which was actually, he was really good. But anyway, but the point is that I'm constantly seeking out people that are going to improve me. I'm constantly seeking out, books or movies or magazines or something that's going to help educate me, to make me better. I'm not going to rely on somebody else to do it. I'm going to put in the work, and I'm going to be very careful about the people that I surround myself with, that I spend my time with. I'm going to turn off the news as much as possible. I'm going to stay off this, listen to people bicker and troll each other on social media. I'd much rather be out, going to the gym or going for a run or writing down my goals like I have in this book, figuring out what I'm going to do to get better. And it's that self-talk. I constantly work on that, because I'm my worst critic. I'm kind of like, how you are with yourself. Sometimes I think I'm not deserving on one hand, but on the other hand, I know that I am. I know that if I can become a super successful, wealthy person, I will use that wealth to help other people. And I'm doing it now. And it makes me feel good. It makes me happy. And I don't think that if I'm worth $1 billion one day, it's going to make me a bad person. It's just going to make me more of what I already am, which I genuinely care about people. But this journey to go from that guy that was in Cedars-Sinai Medical Center to where I am now is not easy. That's the trick, is that it's work. It's hard. And most people don't want it to be hard. They want you to give them something.
Right.
But if you think that's going to happen, you just keep on hoping and praying right to the poorhouse, because it's never going to happen. Nothing works unless you do. And that's kind of what I boil it down to. It's who you hang out with, what do you really want for your life, and the people, what are you willing to give up in order to get to it?
Well, man, I think that's as good a place as any to wrap it up. We've been talking for just shy of 2 hours.
Short podcast for you, right?
No, well, it's about average so far, which, but I want to get to where I'm doing, longer and longer ones, but, I have to improve my, my hosting skills.
Yeah.
So, but
Ours
man,
is only about an hour typically. So I got to be long-winded and go for a while here. So thank you.
No, man, dude, I really appreciate you doing this. And, I'm really inspired, and I really got some real insight, and we'll have to do it again sometime, man.
I'm around. You know me. I'll just be sitting here reading books, running, all that boring, white rich people stuff. So
Yeah,
sorry about
exactly.
that.
Well, we'll do it again, and we'll talk about, we'll maybe talk some politics next time. But I really wanted to just kind of hear your story about, you're actually a legit rags to riches story, and it's really inspiring to me. And I just I'm gonna keep moving forward, and thanks for the inspiration, man.
Well, if I can be, I appreciate you saying that too. And like I said, if I can be part of your circle or your surroundings that help get you where you want to go, then to me, that's why I'm here,
Well, I absolutely want that.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Next time you go have dinner with your buddy in Houston, let me tag along with you.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe we saw Justin Bieber this time. Maybe we'll get to see Justin Timberlake next time. That'd be good.
Or whoever. I'm down for whoever, man.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Take care. I'll
Yeah,
talk to you
man.
soon, all right?
Yeah, man.
Peace.
Thank you, buddy.
All right.